Hi, everybody. So on Friday, January 10th, the United States Supreme Court heard the case TikTok versus Garland. Garland is the current Attorney General, so it's TikTok versus the federal government. And Firebaugh versus Garland, or Firebaugh versus the government. Bottom line, ByteDance, owners of TikTok and creators, argue that this new law passed by Congress violates the First Amendment. But DOJ and the federal government says TikTok is a security risk. And this is from the BBC, quote, "The Supreme Court appears poised to uphold a law that bans TikTok in the United States over national security concerns, unless its China-based parent company sells the platform ahead of a January 19th deadline." So January 19th, when these arguments were heard, was just 1 week away. And it doesn't look like anybody's going to sell anything to anybody else. So it looks like TikTok is going to be banned in the United States. I'm Gloria Moraga. This is the Political Woman Podcast. It is Sunday, January 12th, 2025, and we're going to talk TikTok among a couple of other items. So let's get to it. So let's hear the arguments. This is the attorney for TikTok. Take a listen.
Mr. Chief Justice, and may it please the court. Under the Act, one of America's most popular speech platforms will shut down in 9 days. That shouldn't happen for 3 reasons. First, TikTok Incorporated is a U.S. company speaking in the United States. The Act requires it to go dark unless ByteDance executes a qualified divestiture. Whether you call that a ban or a divestiture, one thing is clear. It's a burden on TikTok's speech, so the First Amendment applies. Second, the Act is content-based from beginning to end. It applies only to social media platforms that have user-generated content, except for business, product, and travel reviews. Within that content-based universe, it singles out a single speaker for uniquely harsh treatment, and it does so because the government fears that China could, in the future, indirectly pressure TikTok to disseminate foreign misinformation and propaganda. Finally, the Act can't satisfy any standard of scrutiny. The government has no valid interest in preventing foreign propaganda, and its fallback that it seeks merely to prevent covertness makes no sense, since that could be addressed with a risk disclosure. The government's real target, rather, is the speech itself. Its fear that Americans, even if fully informed, could be persuaded by Chinese misinformation. That, however, is a decision that the First Amendment leaves to the people.
Now, with that said, let's go back to the BBC story, and I will read from that story, quote, "The court's 9 justices heard from lawyers representing TikTok and content creators that the ban would be a violation of free speech protections for the platform's more than 170 million users in the United States." And yes, I am one of those users. I like my TikTok followers. They are smart, they are engaged, and they get me. All right? They get me much more than the people here on YouTube get me. And I don't know why. I don't know. I have no answers for you. But to go on to quote, "The U.S. government argues that without a sale, TikTok could be used by China as a tool for spying and political manipulation." End quote. All right, I just have to say, as if the other apps in the United States that are unregulated, in no terms are they regulated, as if they're not being used for political purposes. Twitter is a cesspool of political lies. And now we see what's going on with Facebook. Now, I don't use Facebook much. I check once in a while because my sister's on there and family reunion stuff gets posted on there, but that's about it. But there's other platforms that are owned by that Zuckerberg dude who's just seeming to cave to Trump. They're all caving to Trump. And it's dangerous. It's dangerous to only have right-wing voices on social media sites. It's dangerous for our kids. So let's go back to some comments from the BBC, and I'll read also from the New York Times. The law that bans TikTok was passed by the Congress earlier in 2024, and it was bipartisan support. Republicans and Democrats are for the banning of TikTok. This is just basically repeating what I've already said. The law requires TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, to sell it in the United States or cease operations on January 19th. The justices are likely to announce a ruling by the end of next week. So that would be this week. So it's coming anytime. And they, from the way I heard, and I've listened to it twice now, and I listened to it live, and I was interrupted here a lot. And so then I went back and I listened to it again without interruptions, and I pulled some sound bites. So here's a sound bite from the government's side that wants to ban TikTok. Take a listen.
Mr. Chief Justice, and may it please the court, the Chinese government's control of TikTok poses a grave threat to national security. No one disputes that the PRC seeks to undermine U.S. interests by amassing vast quantities of sensitive data about Americans and by engaging in covert influence operations. And no one disputes that the PRC pursues those goals by compelling companies like ByteDance to secretly turn over data and carry out PRC directives. Those realities mean that the Chinese government could weaponize TikTok at any time to harm the United States. TikTok collects unprecedented amounts of personal data, and as Justice Sotomayor noted, it's not just about the 170 million American users, but also about their non-user contacts who might not even be engaging with the platform. That data would be incredibly valuable to the PRC. For years, the Chinese government has sought to build detailed profiles about Americans, where we live and work, who our friends and coworkers are, what our interests are, and what our vices are. TikTok's immense data set would give the PRC a powerful tool for harassment, recruitment, and espionage. On top of that, the Chinese government's control over TikTok gives it a potent weapon for covert influence operations. And my friends are wrong to suggest that Congress was seeking to suppress specific types of content or specific types of viewpoints. Instead, the national security harm arises from the very fact of a foreign adversary's capacity to secretly manipulate the platform to advance its geopolitical goals in whatever form that kind of covert operation might take. The Act addresses the threat of foreign adversary control with laser-like focus. It requires only divestiture of TikTok to prevent Chinese government control. And that divestiture remedy follows a long tradition of barring foreign control of U.S. communications channels and other critical infrastructure. So no matter what level of First Amendment scrutiny applies, this Act is valid because it's narrowly tailored to address compelling national security threats. Now, my friend Mr. Fisher just emphasized, and I acknowledge, that millions of Americans enjoy expressing themselves on this platform. But the important thing to recognize is that the Act leaves all of that speech unrestricted once TikTok is freed from foreign adversary control. The First Amendment does not bar Congress from taking that critical and targeted step to protect our nation's security.
All right, so that's the argument for banning TikTok. And now here's back to the New York Times. The justice's decision will be among the most consequential of the digital age. TikTok has become a cultural phenomenon powered by a sophisticated algorithm that provides entertainment and information for nearly half of all Americans. TikTok's lawyers argued, and you heard from them already, they argued to the court that the law, which was passed by Congress, violated the First Amendment, which I agree. I agree. Go regulate Twitter, man. And a group of creators jumped on and also sued the government. And TikTok is paying their legal bills. But the Chinese government is in no way going to go for this. And so it looks like we'll lose TikTok. Now, here's the issue here on TikTok. Let me just go back. There was a separate article on the New York Times about if TikTok is banned, can we still use it? And okay, here's the answer. The social media app is likely to disappear from app stores of Google and Apple right away. But it's unclear if users will completely lose access. And here's why. If you've already downloaded the app, you've got it. But the issue is, and the law is, that the app that you've downloaded that's on your phone won't be updated. So eventually it's going to get old and eventually it won't work anymore. If Google and Apple violate the laws, this law that bans TikTok, they can be fined civil penalties. Hold on. Are you ready for this? Hold on to your butts. Hold on to your wallets. $5,000 per American user. So that's why Apple and Google aren't going to stick their necks out. So they won't be having the app and they won't be updating the app. Now, there is some talk that Trump, who's like switched, right? He was against TikTok and then now he likes it, that he will get the Justice Department, his Justice Department, to just ignore upholding this law. So he could do that, but it's still a big gamble from Apple and Google. Let's just, maybe Trump won't go after us, and then, Trump needs the money, and then he goes after them. So the law does not make it illegal to have the TikTok app on your phone. But the letter of the law is about future downloads and updates. So that's basically what it is, and that's how they'll eventually get rid of TikTok. So, I'm Gloria Moraga, political woman. I just wanted to come on and share this with you and share that, the government side of this is that China could weaponize TikTok at any time to harm the United States because they're gathering information about all of us. And so it's free speech versus protection of our country. And that's the issue. That's the battle. And it looks like free speech is going to take a hit. And we're going to lose TikTok. We'll see. We'll see how this all plays out. There's a lot of different scenarios of things that could happen. I'm Gloria Moraga, political woman. Please subscribe. There's a lot going on right now. And I'm going to have another post and put some of the other information in on the next post. I'm Gloria Moraga. Please subscribe. Please follow me here, there, everywhere. I don't know where. I don't know what to say TikTok. But I love my TikTok followers, and I'm hoping, I can bring them here. Well, they don't seem to want to come here.